The BBC presents Robert Beatty as Philip O'Dell in Lady in a Fog, a serial in 8 parts by Lester Powell. Part 4, The Lady Isn't Willing.
Is this the place, Leighton?
Yes, Inspector. The Leader Hotel.
Expensive place. Does himself well, eh?
O'Dell loves his comfort.
Well, disappearing at this point isn't going to add to his comfort. He's going to find himself on the wrong end of a manhunt. Come on, we'll go in and talk to someone. Are you the manager?
The under-manager.
Oh. Well, I suppose you'll do.
Thank you so much.
I'm Inspector Rigby of Scotland Yard.
Oh.
Yes, I thought you wouldn't like that. There's a man called O'Dell staying here, Philip O'Dell.
That's right. He arrived on Friday.
I want to ask a few questions. Could we go somewhere out of this hubbub?
Of course. This way, please.
Has O'Dell had any callers since he's been here?
Only 2. Both young women.
Who were they?
A Miss McMurdo and a Miss Peters.
Miss Peters. Slender girl with long dark hair.
That is she.
I see. I rang your switchboard 10 minutes ago and they said O'Dell wasn't in. Has he come in since then?
No.
Are you sure?
Of course.
Couldn't he have come in without your knowing?
No, he could not.
You must have as many eyes as a fly.
I have. That's why I'm the under-manager.
The manager must be something.
Be quiet, Leighton. When was O'Dell last in this hotel?
He went out with Miss McMurdo shortly after 9 last night. He hasn't been back since.
Right. Well, I'm sending a man up to his room. You'll give him every facility.
I suppose you have a search warrant.
Naturally. Here you are.
Oh, I see.
Come along, Leighton. We're finished here.
Inspector.
Well?
Is anything wrong?
You don't suppose I'd be here if everything was all right, do you? Now, Leighton, go and tell Bodley to search O'Dell's room. I want all papers and letters brought to me.
Yes, Inspector.
Post Stevenson in the lobby. He's to bring O'Dell straight to the yard if he comes back to the hotel. Meanwhile, I'm going to have a word with Miss McMurdo.
Yes, but you're on the wrong track, Inspector. O'Dell's all right. He's a friend of mine.
That's no recommendation. Do as I say.
Yes, sir. Well, why don't you take a day off?
Did you say anything, Leighton?
No, sir.
I say, where can I find Miss Heather McMurdo?
She's in charge of the perfumery department, first on the right.
Miss McMurdo?
Yes?
I'm Inspector Rigby of Scotland Yard.
Oh, yes. I've heard about you.
I want to ask you a few questions.
Come in here. We shan't be disturbed.
Sit down, Miss McMurdo. There's no need to be alarmed.
Oh, I'm not alarmed.
Oh. A cigarette?
Thanks.
How long have you known Philip O'Dell?
About 4 years.
Know him well?
What do you mean by that?
Well, well. Never mind. When did you see him last?
Just after 1 o'clock this morning. Oh, we had a hectic time last night.
So I understand. You were with him when he discovered the body of Marilyn Peters, weren't you?
Yes.
Were you actually in the room?
No. O'Dell made me wait outside. He's a considerate man.
So he was alone when he discovered the body?
Yes.
How long was he in the room?
Oh, about 5 minutes, I should say.
5 minutes, eh?
What are you driving at, Inspector?
After O'Dell reported the discovery of the body to me, I went round to Sydney Street. In the dead girl's room, I found a tumbler beside the bed. There were 2 sets of fingerprints on it.
You're not suggesting that Philip killed Marilyn Peters, are you?
I'm suggesting nothing. I'm making an investigation. I want these points cleared up. I want to talk to O'Dell. He was supposed to have come to the yard at 10 o'clock this morning. It's now past midday.
I'm sorry, but I can't help you. I don't know where he is. He promised to ring me this morning, but he didn't.
I understand you've telephoned his hotel several times this morning.
Yes, I have.
Why?
I wanted to speak to him.
What about?
Personal matters.
I want a proper answer, Miss McMurdo.
Well, that is a proper answer. Haven't you ever been rung up by a girl?
What's that got to do with it?
Well, if you had, you'd know what I meant by personal matters.
This is a police matter, Miss McMurdo. But that'll be all for the moment.
Well, while Inspector Rigby was going around dispensing his own particular brand of charm, I was waking up in one of the ugliest rooms I've ever seen. It was small and glaringly white. There was one window high up on the wall and covered with strong iron mesh. They didn't intend anyone to get out that way, or through the door, for that matter. It was reinforced with steel bands, and in the upper panel there was a small observation window. A nice, friendly little room. There was no furniture apart from a metal cabinet in dull green and a narrow hospital bed. I was in the bed. I was wearing a pair of pajamas which felt as if they'd been run up from sackcloth that had been treated with mashed nails. I was wondering who had gone to such pains to make me comfortable when I heard the door being unlocked.
Oh, you're awake, are you?
You could call it that. But any resemblance between my present condition and human life is, I feel, purely coincidental.
You talk too much.
I know. How did I manage to talk my way into this bed of roses?
You're sick.
You're telling me. Keep still, will you?
I ain't moving.
Could I have a drink of water?
Sure. Yeah. What's the matter?
I can't sit up.
I could have told you that, matey. Here, let me hold your head up for you. Okay.
Okay.
Now then, drink.
Oh, he's come round then.
Yeah, just watering him.
All right, you can go. I want to talk to him.
Guy.
Well, how do you feel, Mr. Odell?
It's the lady in mink. Been around any more killings since I saw you last?
I asked how you were feeling.
Oh, I feel wonderful. Wonderful. My head feels like an orange that's been run over by a bus.
And that's the morphia. You'll feel better in a minute.
Morphia, huh?
You've been very ill, Mr. Odell.
Really? What happened?
Well, we were talking on Hampstead Heath.
Oh, yes, I remember. I was on my way to see Martin Sorrowby when you popped up out of the darkness. What happened next?
Suddenly, without warning, you collapsed.
Not very complimentary to your powers of conversation. Was I drunk?
I don't know. It happened so suddenly.
Without warning, you say?
Yes, there was no apparent reason for it.
I suppose your pugilist whacking me with a blackjack had nothing to do with it.
My pugilist?
Don't you remember?
I think you must have been dreaming, Mr. Odell.
I see. Your story is that we were having a chat about the international situation when I heeled over suddenly and passed out cold. Is that it?
That's right. Then I got you into my car and brought you here.
And where's here?
A private nursing home.
Private nursing home, huh? I think it looks more like Dartmoor. Who runs this nursing home?
A friend of mine.
Consequently, I get the best of everything. A room like a dungeon and a pair of pajamas which take my top skin off. And lots of lovely morphia. You certainly know how to look after your friends.
I'm not sure you are one of my friends.
Oh, no, don't tell me I've been deluding myself. What about the time you threw that heavy motor car at me? Didn't that mean you cared?
Would you like a cigarette?
Thanks. I think I've just enough strength left to draw it. Once or maybe twice. Well, why don't you sit down?
There isn't a chair.
Well, sit on the bed. I'm too weak to bite.
All right.
You know, you make a nice-looking sick-room visitor. It's a pity you didn't bring some grapes.
Oh, I've brought something better than grapes.
A bottle of scotch?
No, a checkbook.
My favorite form of reading matter.
I thought you looked like a man who loves money.
I adore it, if it's built on portly lines.
Is £1,000 portly enough?
Could be. What do I have to do to get it?
Keep your mouth shut.
Oh, no. that's difficult. As an Irishman, I have a natural love of conversation.
Well, if you could curb it the next time you see a policeman, the 1,000's yours.
You know, I'm not feeling very bright. What is it I'm supposed not to discuss with a cop?
What you know about me.
But I don't know anything about you. I don't even know your name.
You know I knew Ricky McMara.
Oh, I know that, yes. I know he was scared silly of you.
You also know I visited Marilyn Peters just before she died.
Death seems to follow swift on your comings and goings, doesn't it?
Now, let's get melodramatic, Mr. Odell. This is a business talk.
Oh, I don't like that.
Don't like what?
Talking business to someone as lovely as you. Something vaguely indecent about that.
A pretty speech.
Well, I could do a whole lot better if I wasn't wearing these pajamas.
Yes, I believe you could. What's your first name?
Philip.
Philip.
What's your name?
I'll write that on a check.
Me, a one-track mind. I seem fated to attract women with minds like that. May I ask a question?
If you like.
What happens if I don't take the 1,000?
Well, you've been behaving in a very queer way. The doctor would be well within his right if he signed a certificate saying you should be kept under restraint.
You mean saying I'm crazy?
Something like that.
That leaves me in a nasty spot, doesn't it? But if I do take the 1,000, what guarantee have you got that I don't go right out and sing to the coppers?
2 seats have been booked on the evening plane to Dublin. An attendant would escort you.
The attendant wouldn't be you, would it?
No, it wouldn't.
In that case, no soap. The deal's off.
You're not as intelligent as I thought, Mr. Odell.
I know. I'm always an acute disappointment to my nearest and dearest.
I thought I'd be able to appeal to your reason.
Well, try my emotions. That might work.
What do you mean?
Well, just try being kind to me. You know, just a little tenderness.
Don't be funny.
No, I'm not being that. I'm like the blonde who takes some mink. She doesn't like it to be said she's being bought. She prefers that to be understood. You should know that. You've got a mink.
That wasn't a pretty speech, Mr. Odell.
No, but it got under your skin, and that's a good sign.
I don't understand.
Well, sit a little closer for a start. That's better. Now, try giving me a kiss.
No.
Why not? A few women have done it and lived to tell the tale.
What good would it do if I kissed you?
I don't know. Let's try and see.
Well, all right.
Did it do any good?
I thought you were the one we were trying to do good to.
Well, I take some little time to warm up to it. Let's have another go. You must want my silence very badly.
I do.
What for? To avoid being arrested for murder. Did I say something funny?
Oh, no. No, you kissed me and then accused me of murder.
I'm distressingly earthy, I'm afraid. But I might do a deal with you, you know. It's only that I want to know a few things first. I'd like to know what your connection with Ricky McMara was. Now, he was a pretty average piece of riffraff by all accounts. It doesn't go with a woman of your type.
You're not suggesting that I had an affair with him, are you?
Well, it might simplify things if you had. Bang, in the middle of the affair, you find out he's cozy with Marilyn Peters, as her landlady put it. You push him into the river, and later you close her account. Jealous woman, double killings, makes daylight.
You're wrong. I don't go in for men like McMara. What are you grinning at?
Well, if I know anything about women, I'd say you've just admitted to an affair with McMara.
How?
Well, someone once told me that love, passion, whatever you call it, turns to revulsion very easily. And you registered plenty of revulsion when I suggested that you and Ricky McMara...
It isn't true.
All right, it isn't true. What are you going to do now?
I'm going to leave you to think over my proposition. You take the 1,000 and the plane to Ireland, and you go free. If you don't, you stay here. Your next injection's in an hour's time.
You wouldn't be willing to spend that hour with me?
No.
Why not?
Oh, you know all about love, passion, whatever you call it. Work it out.
Well, after she'd gone, I lay and looked at the ceiling and thought about her. It was interesting, very interesting. Especially her reactions to my kissing her. I'd done that firstly because, well, it was nice to do it, and secondly because I wanted to know more about her. You see, I've got a theory that the best way to know anything about a beautiful woman is to make love to her. And I learned plenty about the lady and mate during those 2 kisses. Plenty. I began to get drowsy again, and soon I was drifting down into sleep. But while I was doing so, 2 people were getting anxious about me, for entirely different reasons. Heather McMara was anxious because she was a nice person and felt responsible for getting me into this mess in the first place. And Inspector Rigby. He was anxious, too. Not because he was a nice person, but because he wanted to get me even deeper into the mess. Well, Heather was the first to make a move.
Come in.
Good morning, Mr. Sowerby. It was nice of you to see me.
Oh, come in and sit down, Miss McMara.
It's quite a walk from that door, isn't it?
That's what your friend Odell said when he came here.
He came to see you last night, didn't he?
No, he didn't.
But he said he was going to.
Well, he didn't. Has anything happened to him?
He's disappeared. Oh, something must have happened to him. He wouldn't have gone off without a word.
Well, I can't help you, I'm afraid.
Oh? I was sure you would be able to help me.
Why?
Odell said you know more about my brother's death than you care to say.
Odell talks nonsense.
Oh, no, he doesn't.
Are you being a detective now, Miss McMara?
Odell's a friend of mine. I want to know what's happened to him, and I'm going to find out. Good morning.
Just a moment.
Well?
Tell me, did you know anything about your brother's affairs?
Very little. I only saw him about once a year.
You don't know who his friends were?
No. Except that they weren't very good ones. They got him into a lot of trouble. Why do you ask?
Oh, no particular reason. I heard about his death.
You knew him then?
Oh, very slightly. I met him professionally.
Oh. I didn't know he ever had anything to do with newspapers.
He sold me some information.
I see. Well, that's something. Perhaps I'm not such a bad detective after all. Goodbye, Mr. Sowerby.
Is Mr. Hampton at home?
Have you an appointment?
I'm Inspector Rigby of Scotland Yard.
Oh. Come in, sir.
I won't keep him long.
I'll tell him you're here, sir.
Expensive-looking place. This bloke must have money.
He's one of the largest racehorse owners in England.
Might give us a few tips.
Oh, really, Leighton?
Mr. Hampton will see you now, sir.
Come in, Inspector. Sorry I'm still in my dressing gown. I haven't been at all well today. Parkin, fetch some drinks.
Yes, sir.
Sit down, gentlemen. Pull up to the fire.
This is my assistant, Sergeant Leighton. He and I are making an investigation together.
Oh, yes.
We're looking for a man called Odell. Philip Odell.
Philip Odell. Elusive fellow.
The drinks, sir.
Over here by the fire, Parkin. Thank you. Now, gentlemen, what will you take?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Sergeant?
Oh, well, I'll have a... No, thank you, sir. Not at the moment.
No? No. Well, I think I'll have a drop of brandy. Strictly against doctor's orders. But after all, one pays a doctor, so one can go against his orders. Besides, it's only my nerves. A drop of spirit can't hurt them. That's better. Now, Inspector, you're looking for Philip Odell,
Yes. He came here to see you last night, didn't he?
He did. How do you know?
I had a man following him. Unfortunately, that man lost Odell when he left here. He hasn't been seen since.
Oh, well, perhaps he lost himself. Odell didn't know his way about London very well, especially in a fog.
What did he come to see you about, Mr. Hampton?
Oh, nothing much.
It must have been fairly important.
Why?
He came up the fire escape instead of coming to the front door.
Mr. Odell is a resourceful young man, Inspector. He thought I'd be out if he came to the front door.
Well, having forced himself on you, what did he talk about? Now, come along, Mr. Hampton, please. What did he talk about?
A man called Ricky McMara. He was drowned last Thursday.
I know. I'm investigating his death, and Marilyn Peters as well.
In that case, you probably know about McMara's diary.
No, I don't. What about it?
Odell found it in Marilyn Peters' room. It had my name in it. I told him the reason why.
What was the reason?
McMara was blackmailing me.
Blackmailing you, eh? How?
He got hold of a letter of mine which connected me with a rather embarrassing affair. I didn't want the letter shown in certain quarters, so I gave McMara money. Of course, he didn't hand over the letter.
No, they never do.
But McMara wasn't the principal in the affair. After he was drowned, the blackmailing still went on.
How?
I got telephone calls. A woman's voice. I had one this morning.
I see. You ought to have reported this, Mr. Hampton. The blackmail may be connected with McMara's death.
Yes, I see that, but I'm afraid one doesn't always do what is sensible, Inspector.
Quite. Well, now, to get back to Odell. He came here last night to ask you why McMara was blackmailing you. Is that right?
Yes.
What did you say to that?
Nothing. I asked him to help me find out who's doing the blackmailing, now McMara's dead.
Did he agree?
He did. I gave him £300 on account.
Then he went away?
Yes.
Did he say where he was going?
No, I wasn't here when he left.
Oh?
Well, you see, I got one of these wretched nervous exhaustion fits in the middle of our talk and had to go to bed. Parkin, my man, let him out.
Oh, we'll ask Parkin if Odell mentioned anything to him that could give us a lead.
I'll ring for him.
No, don't do that. We're going now. When you're feeling a little better, Mr. Hampton, I'd like you to come down to the yard.
Very well.
I'd like you to tell me a little more about the blackmailing.
I'll come tomorrow morning, if that's all right.
Yes, that'll do splendidly. Good afternoon, Mr. Hampton.
Good afternoon.
Well, Inspector, what do you make of that?
A lot. It gives us an entirely new slant on Odell's part in all this.
Does it?
McMara had a letter which he knew Hampton would pay for. Heather McMara is Ricky's sister. Odell is her boyfriend. You get the connection?
You think all three of them were in the blackmail?
It seems likely. McMara's got out of the way, yet the blackmailing goes on. Perhaps the letter's still in the family. And remember, it was a woman's voice on the telephone asking Hampton for more money.
But why should Odell and the McMara girl get mixed up in something like that? Neither of them's hard up.
One thing I've learned, Leighton, no one ever has enough money.
Where'd you learn that? Police college?
No, reading the newspapers.
You ought to have read a bit more, sir.
Why?
And you'd know that men of Odell's type aren't blackmailers.
Anyone is liable to be a blackmailer, Leighton. Anyone.
Well, while Inspector Rigby was painfully building his way up to the conclusion that I was a blackmailer, I was still lying in that narrow bed. It was getting on time for my next injection. I was feeling a little stronger now, almost strong enough to lift a matchbox, so I thought I'd have a whack at something really difficult, like sitting upright. I made it in two, and then I got my feet on the floor. Okay, Odell. You're tough, aren't you? 6 foot of solid man. You take a smack on the bean with a blackjack, you take a packet of dope being shot into you and still keep your eyes open. Okay. Now let's see you do something really tough. Stand on your feet. Fool. I said your feet, not your knees. Come on. Let's have another whack. Fine. Now, do you think you can walk? You can? Okay. Let's go and look inside that cabinet. Why, Odell, you are wonderful. Now, what have we here? Your clothes. That's a break. And my torch. Make a handy weapon. Uh-oh. Here comes the injection. Back in the bed, quick.
You awake?
Sure.
Feel okay?
Better than you'd believe.
We'll soon fix that. Time for your injection.
Who gives it?
I do.
You a qualified doctor?
Oh, sure. College man, me.
I can tell that from the way you talked.
You know, don't let's be funny. Give us your arm.
You know, the police aren't going to like this when they hear about me being detained here and shot full of dope.
No?
No.
Hey, what makes you think they're going to hear about it?
This! And here's another for the pinpricks. Goodbye, Jay. See you in college. Well, I struggled into my clothes and was out of that cell. But I still had to get out of the house. Offing Jay with my torch and dressing had used up my slender reserves of strength. I leaned against the wall in the corridor, and my brain was going around like a crazy moth. My knees felt like the inside of a watermelon. Oh, I was in great shape to fight my way out. But I was free. Free to walk among men. My head high and coins jingling in my pocket. Yeah, free.
Attention. Wanted Philip O'Dell. Height 6 feet, hair brown, eyes grey. Wearing a blue serge suit, white shirt, mulberry tie. Last seen on the night of the 27th in the vicinity of Hampstead Heath. Believed unarmed, but capable of violence.
That was The Lady Isn't Willing, the fourth part of Lady in a Fog, a serial in 8 parts by Lester Powell, with Robert Beatty as Philip O'Dell and Sheila Manahan as Heather McMara. The part of the Lady in Mink was played by Mary Wimbush, Christopher Hampton by James Thomason, Inspector Rigby by Edward Dewsbury, and Sergeant Layton by Geoffrey Siegel. The serial is produced for the BBC by Martin C. Webster.